Hey guys, it's Angelica with Maxtech, and I just upgraded to an iPhone 13 Pro from my 10R that I've had for years now, and I've got to say, it's been long overdue. This phone has been the subject of my dreams every night for the past 6 months, ever since Vadim made his first iPhone 13 leaks video. And going from something like my 10R, which is now officially discontinued by Apple, to this phone is a crazy upgrade. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the changes I've experienced so far switching to this 13 Pro, both good and bad, and then I'm going to get into how it's changed my day-to-day life as an average consumer, and if it's worth coughing up the dough this year if you currently have a much older iPhone like the 10R. Let's start off with the most obvious difference, and that is the square design. I love the flush display and flat stainless steel sides of the Pros. They really stand out and make the phone look like a slab of premium, if premium were a noun. To this day, sometimes I stop what I'm doing and I just sit there admiring the new design. It almost looks too nice for me to own, especially side by side with my 10R. Even though on paper it doesn't look like much, in the hand I can feel a considerable weight difference. For me, this is a slight disadvantage because it's definitely less comfortable to lay down and watch movies for long periods of time, and I am now deathly afraid of dropping this phone on my face. Let's move on to the feature that made me want to upgrade in the first place, and that is ProMotion. I absolutely love this feature. Everything is so smooth and so crisp, it's so much easier on the eyes, and it looks fantastic. And switching made anything that uses 60 Hz look terrible, and it is impossible not to notice the difference. Now, ProMotion is something interesting, and that to me and pretty much everyone into tech, it is a huge deal and a really big reason to upgrade, but for most casual consumers, it doesn't really matter. Joshua Chang made a video where he brought in 5 of his friends and gave them 13 Pros to play with and see if they notice a difference in refresh rate. And out of the 5, only 1 person noticed without help from Joshua. And when asked if they would upgrade for this feature, the consensus was that it's great and looks nice, but it's not something worth paying the money for.
This is better, I suppose, but like, not enough for me to be like really complain about it from my phone.
And that's absolutely true. You do not need it. It looks and it feels great, and I was very excited for it, but is it really that important for the average user? Probably not, unless you want to do 120 FPS mobile gaming. A great thing about ProMotion though is that it improves battery life. Because the refresh rate adapts in real time and can go down to 10 Hz, you're saving battery life compared to it being locked at 60 Hz. And I know a lot of you may say that, hey, Samsung smartphones like the S21 Ultra have already had this feature, so it's not really impressive. But the thing is that the S21 Ultra actually wastes battery life. It's advertised as being able to go down to 10 Hz as well, but users have noticed that on static images, it stays at 60 Hz, and it only goes down to 48 Hz when viewing 20 FPS video. And some people have tested the always on display, and apparently it also stays at 60 Hz. Now, before I get into my real world experience with battery life on this 13 Pro compared to my old 10R, I want to ask you guys to subscribe because apparently only around 23% of you are. And with that, you can help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers before the end of the year. We'd really appreciate it. Back to battery life, it is insane. Ever since I got the 13 Pro, I have not once put it in battery saving mode. During weekdays at work, I keep it on a wireless charger so it's always topped off. And one day after typical use for me, at night before I went to bed, my phone was at 82%. The crazy thing is, I don't even have to charge it at night on weekends. I use CarPlay when I drive, which simultaneously charges my phone, and topping off just from driving is enough to keep my battery alive the entire weekend. This is incredible, never having to worry about battery life when on my 10R, I almost always had to have it on battery saving mode and still charge at night. This is one of the biggest things that makes it worth upgrading, especially if you have a much older phone that you've had for years, since battery health will decline over time. The next thing I was excited for was the smaller notch. Now, this isn't a big deal, as it's still a mammoth compared to literally every notch out there, but it's nice to not have it cut into videos as much. It's just been something that we've been waiting for years, and it finally distinguishes itself apart from previous iPhone models on the front. Hopefully one day with a software update, the extra space given will be utilized, like showing your actual battery percentage. I do also really like how the layout has changed, with the speaker grill being moved to the top of the notch instead of in the center. It definitely makes it look much neater. However, according to analyst Ross Young, the next iPhone 14 will get rid of the notch entirely and have a hole punch just like most current Android phones, which is going to be a game changer, especially since Face ID will still likely be implemented just under the display. And speaking of the display, in real world, I have noticed a massive difference. For one, the 13 Pro has an OLED display compared to an LCD in the XR, with a PPI of 460 compared to 326. So it's very sharp with high contrast. But what's crazy between these is the difference in brightness. This year, for the first time, the 13 Pro models have a peak typical brightness of 1000 nits compared to the previous 800. But my XR has a peak of 625. That difference sounds insane, and it looks insane too. I'm finally able to use my phone outside in the sun and be able to see what I'm doing, when before I never could, especially because my XR would constantly dim from the heat of the sun. And speaking of dimming, I have not experienced it happening even once so far. With my XR, it would constantly overheat, and sometimes the display would even dim down to 30% indoors, and I don't even do things that draw crazy amounts of power like gaming. I've also noticed a massive difference in the speakers. They are so much louder and clearer, and I can finally play music from my phone and it's loud enough for my liking. When before, I'd exclusively use my AirPods because the speakers on the XR were just way too quiet. Another huge improvement that I'm extremely happy about is the increase in RAM. The Pro models of the 12 and 13s finally come with 6 GB of RAM compared to 4 GB on all the other models. And that extra 50% changes everything. It was a constant pain having my apps refresh every time I open them, even if I only had like 3 or 4 open. And now I finally no longer have to deal with that problem, and it is such a relief. Nothing is more annoying than having a YouTube video on, opening another app to check something, and having YouTube refresh on you. Moving on, something I know a lot of people are curious about are the cellular speeds. So we ran a test outside, and the download speed went from 52 megabytes per second to 206. And the upload went from 7 megabytes per second to 28, literally being 4 times faster in both. Now, there are a few more improvements that I haven't had time to fully explore, but I'm really excited to, and one of those are the cameras. Now, both the 10 and the 10S have dual cameras, a wide and a telephoto, but I had a XR, and that only has a single wide lens. The photo quality was pretty terrible. Last month, I went on a trip to Olympic National Park, and I was so bummed to still have my XR. The photos weren't so bad during the day, but as it got darker on my hike, the photo quality got worse and worse. Here is an out-of-focus shot just for reference of how dark it was, and here is a portrait photo I tried to take that looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Portrait photos, especially nighttime, got a huge improvement this year, so I'm really excited to finally be able to get good-looking photos. The last feature that I haven't been able to utilize yet, but I'm really excited for, is Magsafe. There are so many accessories that I'm already planning on purchasing, just like Belkin's 2-in-1 charger stand for my phone and AirPods Pro, and this sticky wall mount from Amazon that we featured in one of our top Magsafe accessories videos. I'm planning on buying a few of these to use when doing things like cooking or working out. You can also use this as a simple and clean wall mount in your car. So I know the price tag of $9.99 is pretty hefty, but this iPhone 13 Pro has fully lived up to my expectations, and I am beyond thrilled to own this phone. Gorgeous design, 120Hz, insane battery life, and 6 gigs of RAM makes this phone more than worth it. And that's not even mentioning the insane camera differences, which alone are worth it. So if you have an older iPhone and you're wondering if this is the year to upgrade, I would personally say it depends on how excited you are about these features. If you're like me and you've been waiting for features like 120 Hz, then absolutely go for it. I know you love this phone as much as I do as a regular consumer. And if you really want the 14 that's coming next year, I'm in the same boat, which is why I signed up for the upgrade program. Don't forget that you always have the option to pick up this 13 and then sell it next year when the 14 comes out. So with all of that said, I hope this video helped you if you have an older iPhone like I did. Click the button above to subscribe and go ahead and check out one of those 2 videos over there. This has been Angelica with Max Tech. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.